Hello, my name's Max Delsohn. I am the author of the short story collection Crawl, which takes place in Seattle during the 2010s. It features all transmasculine protagonists. So I'm here in Seattle at Cal Anderson Park to read a little bit from one of the stories in the book called The Bubble. On the first sunny day of the season, the city of Seattle went to Cal Anderson Park. It wore shorts, tank tops, bikinis, flip-flops, sun hats, and cut-off overalls. It lounged on beach towels, jumped for frisbees, clustered under red maples, crouched to pet French bulldogs slobbering exuberantly. It shouted and smiled with alien urgency, and every breath it took seemed to crackle with potential. On the first sunny day of the season, the city of Seattle remembered it was alive. Like everyone else, I had come to the park in my Sunday best, crisp black muscle tank and salmon pink chino shorts, to see if the warm weather would solve all our problems. What might Seattle become beneath the sun's luscious yellow spell? I'd seen most of the queers there before, but that was to be expected. We weren't a small community, but there were only so many protests, so many independent bookstores and gay bars. Maybe today would be the day we'd all finally fuck in the grass or bathe naked in the fountain. Do something, anything, that broke up the usual rainy, gentrified monotony. Yes, the whole city of Seattle was outside today, but we were the main attractions, the stars of the show. Hot for disruption and cruising for newness. It was in the midst of such fantasizing that I found Hudson, inconsolable, on a patch of turf in the park. Hudson was one of my first friends in college. Not my most reliable friend, to be fair, but one of my first. He transitioned in our junior year, I transitioned in our senior year, and for a while, we were the only trans guys at our college. He shepherded me through the early days of my transition, brought me with him everywhere. He was that particular blend of charming and obnoxious that was rare enough in Seattle to garner him friends all over the city. Hudson was loud, Hudson was a mess, Hudson made interesting things happen. We'd walk into a bar and he'd always know somebody. We'd walk into a gay bar and he'd always know everybody. I was the guy who reminded him to drink water and drove him home when I wasn't too smashed. That day at Cal, Hudson looked more glamorous than ever. His peroxide blonde hair blazed with sunlight. Beneath his Ray-Bans, I could tell he had shut his eyes. He looked as if he were in pain. I can't believe she's done this to me. They, oh my God, they. I squinted at my friend and asked what he meant. He peered around suspiciously, as if he feared being caught with a terrible secret. "It's Miranda," he said. "She's a they now. She is theying out." He spit on the turf, which did not absorb his saliva at all, but seemed to showcase it in its slow, grotesque bubbling. Since when? Since last Tuesday? Since longer? Since forever? You know how these people are. I was really a boy all along, or some such crap. I laughed. "Isn't that what you said when you came out too?" "How dare you compare me to her," Hudson said gravely. He produced a bubble tea from his purse and sipped from the fat white straw. "Sorry, to they." Hello, my name is Max Delsohn, the author of the book Crawl. We're here at Lake Washington. I'm going to read to you from my short story, The Geeks. Ray had been aware of the National before meeting Milo, but he hadn't paid them very close attention. Ray preferred his music loud and in your face. He liked drum and bass, turned up as high as his bedroom speaker system would allow. It was for the same reason that Ray had gotten so close to Milo, had let Milo into his life with minimal resistance and unprecedented speed. Milo was loud and in your face. Milo never stopped talking, and whenever he talked, he yelled. Milo liked drum and bass too, but more than that, Milo liked the National. He liked putting on the album High Violet and driving slow on Lake Washington Boulevard. He liked lighting up a cigarette during sorrow and pulling into the dirt parking lot under the bridge during anyone's ghost. He liked to keep his car, a 2006 cherry red Rabbit he'd named Garth, running with the doors open so he could skip rocks to Afraid of Everyone in Blood Buzz, Ohio, so he could drink from a flask of tequila while humming along to Lemon World. Around Conversation 16, he'd get back in his car and continue driving north. And when the album came to a close with Vanderlyle Crybaby Geeks, when Milo rolled all the windows down and was screaming the lyrics so hard, his breath burst from his mouth, white and glowing in the black winter night, then, and only then, did Milo feel okay to go back to the Wallingford studio apartment where he lived alone. Milo had long indulged in this High Violet ritual privately, but then he started bringing Ray along. A few days each week, Ray bummed a Marlboro Red off Milo, and Milo tried to get Ray better at skipping rocks, but mostly just made fun of him, and they took turns driving Garth, and they drank Milo's tequila, and they sang Vanderlyle Crybaby Geeks, and sometimes Milo would cry, but mostly he didn't. Ray never cried to Vanderlyle. He was too busy looking at Milo. Where else was there to look? Hello, my name is Max Delsohn, the author of Crawl. We're here at Denny Blaine Park, and I'm going to read from my short story, Moon Over Denny Blaine. People called it a beach, but it wasn't. People called it paradise, but baby, it wasn't. It was a public park shoved against a lake. 3 levels: green grass, yellow grass, and dirty dirt sand. Most people sat on the yellow grass because there wasn't much space on the sand. If you wanted to sit on the sand, you'd have to claim a spot in the morning, and most of us were showing up after morning shifts or before night shifts. Most of us were descending on the so-called beach not a minute sooner than 3 o'clock. It wasn't the kind of place you rushed to, Denny Blaine. To the left of the concrete stairs, on the yellow grass by the bush with the wasp nest, that was our spot. To the left of that was the bush without the wasp nest, where people would pee sometimes, although we usually just peed in the water. It was a talked about thing, peeing in the water. The city wouldn't give us a porta potty, even though the real beaches had them. We suspected this was the fault of the mansions on either side of the park. Once someone called the cops on us for swimming too close to their, quote, backyard. And another time, I saw a woman with mean bird-like features snarl at us from an upstairs window. The cops showed up that time too. Denny Blaine was functionally a nude beach. There are no laws against being naked in the city of Seattle. You just can't indecently expose yourself, make it sexual. And the only beachgoers you could accuse of that were those old straight guys, the ones who rocked around with semis and struck up conversations with topless femmes who tried to hide their faces in the copies of Pleasure Activism or the Argonauts. Before those straight guys started showing up, the beach was affectionately referred to as Daikiki. There was real pride in bringing a new queer to Denny Blaine. You'd wade naked in the blank blue water, chug warm cans of PBR, and ignore the Bellevue skyline for that wholly hallucinatory vision of Mount Rainier. You'd tell them, hey, this isn't a safe space. This isn't everything we deserve. This doesn't even have a bathroom you can use. But it's something. Something the gay bars with their cover charges and their corporate-backed drag shows can't give us. We can all just be here, together. We can all finally be alone. Hello, my name is Max Delsohn, the author of this book, Crawl. I am going to read for you the titular story of my collection, Crawl. There in the bright, near-empty sports bar, Jack decided that this would be the year he loved men. Not just fucked men, as he often did after a drink or two at Diesel or Pony or the Eagle or the Cuff or Neighbors or even the Timber Room when it wasn't infested with queerdo hipster types. These were the gay bars in which you flirted and flirted until the grounds for fucking were laid. Unless, of course, you could get away with fucking right then and there in the bathroom, which Jack had never pulled off, even in the Pony bathroom with all the glory holes. But he'd been to apartments, studios the size of broom closets or lavish corner units with a view of the skyline. After some routine mouthing, he'd take off his pants and get on his knees, turn to face the dead fern or the cracked drywall or the faraway glint of the Space Needle. The smoothest nights were when it all went so fast the guy didn't even notice Jack was trans, just plowed into his ass until he was done, then fell mindlessly back into bed like a gob of butter slipping off the knife. There had been a particularly indulgent night with Raphael, the French coder slash CrossFit bro. Amazing, your vagina, he'd said into Jack's bush. That guy knew Jack was trans. Days later, Jack had revisited Raphael's Tinder profile, only to see he had changed his bio from gay to gay and hetero-curious. Jack tried to take this as a compliment, but he couldn't. He had been passing for years now. Raphael had called Jack good boy and put his face in his armpit and inhaled deeply, which Jack had seen guys do in gay porn sometimes. But then Raphael had said the vagina thing. How had Jack been so entirely misunderstood? Romance, perhaps, was the missing element. The inspiration for talk beyond "do you have a condom" and "that's a good boy." It seemed an entirely separate skill set to romance and be romanced by men, fervently loved like another language lurking beneath the surface, through which he could not just pass as a man but be taken as one, body and soul. But he feared that among gay men in Seattle, love was rarely an option, even for the cis ones. They all worked in tech, keen on climbing the corporate ladder so they could plant a rainbow flag at the top, and that kind of fag doesn't want love. That kind of fag wants Patagonia.